So for assignment number 1 of Coursera's Video Games and Learning class, I played a game called Darksiders, which is a hack and slash action adventure game. It was originally built for the console, but I played it on the PC using an Xbox controller. Now, I usually play games like MMORPGs, so this is a pretty big departure in game style. Now, the game starts off with this very mythic prologue describing the background and the lore of the game. And then it cuts to a modern setting, looked like Times Square of New York City, and it was being bombarded with meteors. And all these monsters, including, I guess, the character that you play, which is War, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, kind of rides in on these meteors. So War's arrival launches the start of the tutorial section. You really don't get any downtime. You immediately have enemies running at you, and the screen flashes its first set of directions, which is push X to attack, and push LT to focus on a single target. So immediately you're just mashing X and hoping that you don't die. It also shows you things like push B in order to perform a finishing move, and other combat key controls. Now, my challenge here was that I do not play console games, so I did not know how to use the controller. So the first few moments were incredibly chaotic, where I basically madly mashed the buttons and hoped that things would die that weren't me. And surprisingly, that actually worked pretty well. Eventually, I figured out how to navigate my character using the joysticks and also to change the camera angles. But the game definitely assumes that you know what, for example, the RT button is. And because I didn't, I had to look at the controller and find all the buttons. So I could not really read and parse through the directions quickly enough to fully absorb all the incoming information. I did have somebody watching me who was telling me what to do when I clearly missed the instructions. For example, how to transform myself into a chaos form. I did not catch how to do that, so he just told me what to do, and I did it. But even with the challenge of operating controllers, there was still not that much strategy involved in the fighting. Apparently you can just run around and mash attack and run at enemies, and you're pretty much okay. I did have the difficulty setting on the easiest level, so that probably helped. But yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. When the game does then eventually sort of builds you up to learn more things, such as this is how you pick up an object and throw it, which will become important later on at the end. So after you sort of get into the game and get into the groove of how to kill things, there is a map, there's a glowing beacon on it. It was pretty intuitive that you're supposed to follow the glowing beacon on the map. The game also introduced you to other ways of navigating, like it'll show you this wall, instead you push this button to jump onto it, or you can push another button in order to climb on pipes, in order to traverse sort of open areas. And you can press other buttons in order to strafe quickly, right and left, as a sort of a way to dodge attacks. And it actually did a pretty good job of sort of shepherding you through the area. Basically, if you walk towards the light, if you hit the correct trigger, they will show you a pretty quick cutscene, fill you in on more of the story and let you know that you've reached the next part of the tutorial. Finally, at the end, when you've sort of fought a bunch of enemies and seen all of your basic attacks, you see this big skull symbol on the map, which is pretty obvious that it was the boss. So you go towards it. It was a very tall boss, so you couldn't really attack him directly. But if you remembered what the game has shown you so far, you know that you can pick up objects, such as cars, and throw them. It took me a little bit of time to figure it out, but I figured out that you're supposed to pick up the cars, throw them at him, and he will sort of crumple down, and then when his face is at ground level, you can attack him. He'll also do a really obvious emote, and then bring his fist down, and this line of fire comes, and you're supposed to use your dodge ability in order to not get hit by that. And eventually, if you use these strategies, you can bring down the boss and you can finish the tutorial. Overall, I think the game is pretty simple to play. It does rely a lot on motor memory, which I didn't really have, and that was my main difficulty. But in general, it was a pretty, I think, gentle introduction. The fact that I was able to get through it without dying. I think I died once. I fell off a ledge and I died. But it was very, very forgiving. It shows you all the instructions and it puts it all together for you to defeat the end boss. So in general, I think it's a pretty good introduction to this particular game. One final quick addendum. The gameplay footage included in this video was not taken by me. I grabbed them from another YouTube video. The source of the footage will be linked below in the description. Thank you very much.